Yeah, I think my.
Hey, this is Jim.
I'm sorry.
Hey,
Go ahead.
Dale. Hey, Jeff. Hope everybody's doing well. We're back on it for another week. How you guys doing?
Doing pretty well. How about you, Jim?
Pretty good in Hillsborough, North Carolina. How about you, Dale?
Look at me, the white ghost. I'm white there. I don't know if you noticed. Let's see here if I can give us some better looks there. Um,
Dale, you're looking slimmer, man. I'm gonna have to step up my game here. You look like you could play some offensive line or maybe a fullback or something right now.
hopefully, it's more like a
What's
fullback. Maybe it's gone from offensive line to a fullback, hopefully, or actually a little bit under that. Maybe
My church built.
maybe we can
what's
tell.
your 40-yard speed now? About are you running a 4.740?
I don't know that I could run 7.440 right now. I don't know that I want to try. Actually, at Elon, I went up to Elon College football camp my summer of my senior year, and I ran a 4.6 there at camp. I think I could run a 4.7 backwards, is what I used to tell one of my sons. He couldn't run. He wanted to play wide receiver, and my youngest son, and he was wide receiver, but his speed was lineman speed for some reason. Small kid, but anyway. Hopefully, I was looking to see. Give me just 1 second. I wanted to see if Carrie, do we show any people online right now? We show one person.
I need to start exercising myself.
Well, Jeff, it's just a matter of doing it, you know?
Yeah, my church built a track, so I could probably start walking on that track after I get off work every day.
Well, that's a start.
No,
You know, it's about calories in, calories out, and or calories in, calories burned, and you attribute the most important is they burn.
you are breaking up.
Okay. Am I breaking up? You say?
Yes. Can you hear me loud and clear?
I hear you perfectly. You're good. I don't know why it's not my internet. My computer is kind of, I don't know, it's playing. She's here. That's her picture in the background. One of her pictures. You guys have been looking. She's taken some fantastic pictures this year.
Dale, you're still kind of breaking up. It's kind of going in and out. It's like a static or something, like something's not connected right or something.
I don't know what's going on. This is not good. Okay. So, Jim, I'll bring some things up, and you the primary talking.
Okay.
Hopefully you heard that. And
yeah,
first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to bring up this. So.
Oh, we wanted to get you mad.
Exactly. So go ahead, Jim.
Well, the one thing about these polls, though, a lot of people want to get out their microscope and look at them in detail, and they're not looking at the whole picture. In 4A, we have over 100 schools that play high school football, and they'll see a team on there that's maybe ranked 6th or 7th, and they're like, "Why is it 6th? Why are they 6th or 7th? They shouldn't even be in the top 10, or why aren't they 2nd or 3rd?" But you have to look at the complete picture. So instead of getting out the microscope, they really need to look at the telescope. And be honest with you, this year we only have a few really great teams in 4A, but we have a bunch of pretty good 4A teams, and that's why a team that's that's maybe the 15th best in 4A on a given night can be the 3rd best team in 4A. I think we saw that last week with Butler and New Hanover. I mean, I had Butler. I thought they were a top 10 team, like number 6 or 7 going into the last week, and they lost a close one to New Hanover. So, the same thing with 3A, 2A, 1A. There's a couple of really good teams in each one. Like in 3A, I think Kings Mountain and Havelock are the best. 2A, you got Monroe, you got Wallace Rose Hill. There's several others. They're great 2A teams. And then you have a lot of pretty goods. And Shelby is a pretty good team. There's not many, I don't know if there's many 2A schools that would be even 1 and 2 going into the 4th week based on Shelby's schedule. I mean, they've played a brutal schedule. But and same thing with 1A. 1A, you got Tarboro, you got Mitchell. And then you have the pretty goods in 1A is not that big. It's probably about 8 to 10 deep. You got 2 really good 1A teams, and then maybe 8, 9. They're pretty good. So I think there's going to be a lot of parity, at least this going in the season. There's a lot of unknowns. So I'll shut up. Jeff, what's your thoughts, man?
On Shelby?
Well, yeah. Let me, if you hopefully you can hear me, Jeff, as you chime in, and there was a brief mention about Shelby there. So one of the talking points tonight was going to be, and this is probably a good time to go ahead and talk about it over this rankings thing, is where Shelby's at and what does the future look like?
Well, you saw our discussion with Alan last night. He still has Shelby like number 5 in my area. I sort of put them down to like number 7, I think, simply because they are 0-3. Now, I do think they're going to pick it up this week against High Brighton. Obviously, I picked them to win by 21 points against High Brighton because I don't feel like High Brighton is as good an opponent as, like you guys mentioned, Kings Mountain and AC Reynolds and Crest. I mean, Kings Mountain and AC Reynolds, the first 2 teams right there, are basically murder's row. And I think given what's in Shelby's conference, definitely think they are going to rebound and make a playoff run. Now, they're going to have a tough game at the end of the year against Burns, but I feel like basically the drawing board is right now. Next week, if they lose to High Brighton, it's not get back to the drawing board. It's get back to the drawing board like right now. What mistakes did we make against Crest to blow that 23-0 lead and lose 54-49? And, how can we, hold on to these games that we're supposed to win? Now, if you remember, Kings Mountain or Shelby almost came back to beat Kings Mountain in the 4th quarter of that game, but Kings Mountain held on. So, Shelby is not beaten down by these losses. I think that they can easily rebound and make a run.
All right. So just something for you to know, Jeff. These rankings and your rankings and all these rankings we do are highly subjective. And that's exactly one of the points that Jim is also making. I tried to find some objectivity because I am an extremely objective driven, individual, fact driven individual. And the only thing that we have, and this is not to say it's the best thing or the right thing, but the only thing we have is Max Preps and their power rankings. That's the only objective data that we have. So that's not a human saying this person needs to be here. This is a computer looking at scores, and the computer has Shelby ranked 5th in the state in 2A. So based on when you look at their losses and you look at who they lost to, they're playing above their pay grade in classifications, and they are playing those games tight. With the five, I think that's kind of what Jim is saying, is that he still thinks they're probably a top. I think they're without question the top 10 2A team still. Don't you, Jim?
Oh yeah.
So
no doubt about it.
Now to get on track and be a contender at the end of the season in the playoffs, they will improve. So I find it interesting, though, how many times do we see Shelby at 0-3? But look at the competition.
Last time that happened was in 2012.
Yeah, and again, look at the competition they're playing. Cleveland County is the best football any classification, I think. When you look at the overall, not just the quality of the teams, but the environments, and everything's a big game. When you think about rival games and you try to pick rival games, all you got to do is step to Cleveland County, and anytime those teams mix against each other, it's a rival, right?
You got 4 really good teams, and between those 4 teams, you could have 6 different rivalries.
Exactly. So that's an amazing situation, and you can see, especially on a year that one of my other points to bring up was, is this possibly Kings Mountain's year? They've looked good so far this season, I think, with some impressive wins. What do y'all think?
It kind of goes back to, I think every team has a floor and a ceiling. Let's say, like, here's your ceiling, right over here is your floor. And trying to get those teams right now at the very beginning of the season, you're going to be playing closer to your floor, and you don't really know what your ceiling is. And at this point, we can tell that Kings Mountain has a high ceiling. I don't know. There's other teams that actually have higher ceilings in 2A that have the talent to go past Kings Mountain. Right now, they're in good position, but it's only September. We'll know a lot more about it probably early November if they have the talent. But right now, they're definitely in the talks that they can take it all.
I thought I'd show the picture there. She has a number of great pictures, and it was hard to pick one, so I just kind of randomly picked one. Jeff, what do you think? Kings Mountain.
They have the potential to really, really, go far this year. And, state title, I don't really make those kind of predictions at this point in the game unless you're basically doing what the South Point of 2003 was doing, blowing everybody out of the water. But I saw Kings Mountain against Asheville. Their front 8 is stout. And, their defensive backs can definitely capitalize on your mistakes and, turn the ball over or cause you to turn the ball over. And their front 7 can just outman and basically out-physical your front line. That's what I saw out of Kings Mountain. Now, offensively, I'm going to want to see a little bit more from them offensively. Their defense set them up in pretty good position, as did their special teams. But offensively, I just wanted to see a little more, improvement, more, fluidity, and, the offense turned the ball over like 3 times against Asheville. I don't know what they did against Burns. I wasn't at that game, but to put up 27 points or shut out Burns 27-0 is pretty impressive. Now, Kings Mountain's going to have another test in a few weeks. First week in October.
Are you eating crow, Jeff?
Yep. Enjoyed it too. Didn't even need A1 sauce for it. Kings Mountain people kicked my can all over Carolina Varsity, and I don't run away. I can, as they said, I can take the smoke. So, and I even smoked my crow a little bit. But
there you
go. I don't know if anybody that predicted that Kings Mountain would win 27-0.
Well, he picked Burns would win. So
yeah, but even those that of us, I mean, I picked Kings Mountain to win. I thought it was going to be a close game.
I did
I thought
too.
I thought it was going to be more like a 23-20 or 27-20 or something like that, but not 27-0. That's that kind of blew my mind, to be honest with you. It shows they have a high ceiling.
Mine too. I thought a 1-score game. No more than 2.
They got
yeah, they got whooped. Burns did. So
they got a point coming up. Kings Mountain does on October 7th. That'll be a game to watch.
October 7th is who?
South Point at Kings Mountain.
South Point. Yeah, that'll be a big game. When you think about those Cleveland County rivalries, and then you think about South Point. South Point has some, or had some, and over the years has had some great rival type games with several of those Cleveland County schools. So, of course, they've shared conferences many times, so that kind of helps with that. So yeah, that'll be a big game because South Point's looking pretty good this year too. So
yeah, if you listen to a lot of the South Point people, they can't believe there's any team that's ranked higher than they are. It's just I think they think they're number 1 in the entire state, including 4A and including the college ranks. But
oh sure,
and I'm giving South Point a hard time. I have a lot of good friends in South Point, so just not trying to be personal about it. But.
Well, thinking about who's number 1 overall over everybody, and my pick is East Forsyth, and I know Jim, that's your pick because these are your picks here. So, do you feel like they are on? Do you feel like Chambers and anyone else is on par with them, or is there a gap between East Forsyth and everybody else?
I think there's a gap when it comes to their floor. I think, again, we got to, here's your floor and here's your ceiling. I think you have a lot of, like East Forsyth's floor may not be here, but it might be up here or so. And their ceiling may not be as high as we think it is, but they have such a high floor right now that and most of the time, at the beginning of the season, you're going to be playing closer to your floor than your ceiling. I do think there's not a team that has a higher floor than East Forsyth. Do I think there's teams that have higher ceilings or have the potential to have that could beat East Forsyth? Yes, I think there's some teams we just don't know of them right now. But at this point, I think East Forsyth is. Kelly King over at Havelock told me that they look like a small college team right now.
Right. So for me, it's tough for schools to get out of the West, first of all. The West is just so heavy in 4A. And so that's who, that's obviously where an East Forsyth is going to hit their competition. And again, there's some great 3A teams out there, but the one thing that I see is when you get down to the Huffs and the Chambers, and I don't know if Audrey Kell is going to prove out to be, they certainly look like they could, but if they're going to prove out to be a third the 4th round team. I don't know if they're going to prove that, but it's very, very tough to come out of the West at all, and that'll be including East Forsyth, because they will have to they'll have to deal with this. The East is a whole lot softer, if you will, region to come out of. So a great team like an East Forsyth they can see themselves getting knocked out in the 3rd round because they've had to face a Huff or somebody like that. So, and it's kind of cool. I wanted to bring up, and let me see if my are things smooth from my side right now?
It is. They are a lot better.
I can hear you.
I think what was going on was my and it settled down. I've got to probably reset. Just go through and reset my computer. What I wanted to do is I wanted to bring something up here, guys. So let me get this up. So I went to a game Friday night that I'm going to tell you is one of the best high school football games I've witnessed. And I've been to some fantastic ball games. One of the games that I will always put down as one of the best is let's see here. Where's it at? Is the Richmond, the 2003 Richmond and Independence ball game. You remember that one, Jim?
I've watched football Friday night highlights on it.
So which game was this again?
So when I look at games, and I'm just trying to talk a second to get my
Independence Richmond 2003.
Yeah. All right, here we go.
That was right before Tom Knotts left Independence to go work at Dick that one year.
Okay, did that share?
Yeah.
It did. All right, so everybody, if you'll watch this play here, what we have right now at this point in the game, you can see we're at 18.7 seconds. Charlotte Catholic had just gone up in this ball game. They got their 20 points not a minute and a half earlier, maybe a little over a minute and a half earlier. Did Charlotte Catholic go up in this ball game? So this ball game the entire night with 2 Division I level quarterbacks and Division I level receivers, and of course, Catholic's got a tight end going to Notre Dame, and Providence. Providence Day's got a quarterback that is ranked number 2 junior quarterback in the nation, and they've got the number 1 prospect in their big offensive lineman. I mean, there's probably near a dozen kids as they get up and graduate and get out on the field here that'll be D1 to D2 players. So we got ourselves all the way down to this point in the ball game. And I don't know if you saw the ball game, but watch this last play here. Ken Bumgarner is the one who shot this video. And you can see, I'm going to stop it. There's Dale standing on the goal line over there. Now I'm going to walk us through the progression here. Now, if you look here, there's real good coverage here. Look at the 3 guys here in coverage, and then the guy out here at the flag. Very good coverage. So the receivers are going into. You have 5 defenders here, and 2 offensive players, 2 receivers, and right here now you've got 3-on-5. And
Wow.
these two guys out here are covered, and this guy's going to run into. So there you go. There's 3. He's right in the middle of them. And here comes the ball. What a catch. You could not ask for a game to end any better. I wanted to show this because in our overall rankings, Jim, you put them at 10. I put them closer to 6. So we both have them in the top 10. I think that we're looking at a team here that is weeks away from leveling. Usually by about the 3rd week, teams are, who they are. That's what I always say. And definitely by the 5th week. This particular quarterback here still has a lot of growth that he has to make and he can make. So this is a team that will unfortunately not be able to contend against any of the other teams that we see here in the list. They did get to play a very, very good Charlotte Catholic team who is not far off of this, at least in 4A out of the top 10. They've got to be in the top 15, don't you think, Jim?
Yeah, I think so. It's thing with Catholic, the first 2 weeks of the season, in their wins, to me, they weren't as impressive as they were in their loss against Providence Day, if that makes any sense.
Kind of, though. I think Hickory Ridge is a pretty darn good team. And I think they're going to show that this Friday night. They have a real big ball game with Chambers Friday night. So
that'll be a drag out.
That'll be what?
A knockdown drag out.
It's got the potential to be. It's a big game that should Chambers not bring their A game and Hickory Ridge does. It's going to be obviously dependent upon how much of a not A game does Chambers not bring, but a solid B game may not be against a solid A game of Hickory Ridge will not. I don't think that wins the ball game for Chambers.
Hickory Ridge their ceiling is higher than Chambers' floor, and that's what I always tell people about it. A team that's an underdog can beat the better team simply because of that. If you don't play, you don't execute on the field, you don't make your cuts, you don't make your blocks, bad things can happen. And I think there's a good argument that Hickory Ridge, if they catch another team that's sleeping, they can make some upsets.
Right. Yeah, I think they have a few things to prove yet, and Chambers really doesn't, other than can they consistently play like a champion? Sometimes those great teams can have those little setbacks that, though they may not be overlooking their opponent, but they don't have that motivation to get themselves up like the opponent does. And that's what you were kind of shining a light on in your statement there with floors and ceilings. And Hickory Ridge has a lot more to be motivated about in this ball game. It's easier for a Chambers to not be as motivated. It's not to say they're not going to play with motivation, but the level of motivation, which is one of the factors, especially in a game like this. So kind of there's a lot of good football this week in our area. So did we get people mad? Did anybody say anything in the comments about being mad?
Well, it's like you have people say like, I don't know why you don't have Dudley, or I think one person said, I don't know why you didn't have Scotland ranked. They're a pretty good 3A team. And I'm like, oh, you're talking about the 1 and 2 Scotland team? I mean,
Yeah,
Scotland's got a good team, but are they a top 10? If you're going to put Scotland in there, who are you going to take out?
who are you going to take out? Exactly.
That's the thing about it. A lot of people when they read these polls, they're looking at the microscope. They're not looking at the telescope. It's
Well,
a bigger picture than that.
the big thing about polls, and last week Alan and Jeff did their little poll, and people were giving them grief for putting Burns over Kings Mountain, and I made the comment that the perfect thing is that this game and that that ranking will be decided on the field this week. So
Right.
in the end, it all gets decided on the field, and it's all subjective as to what we see and what we compare against, and it's really hard. And to put a Scotland team now, to put them in the top 10 would be tough. Now I see a question here, and I think this is from Garrett, of what team do you think will be the next North Carolina team that will be nationally ranked? In North Carolina, I would say right now, if you look at the radar, certainly we got Chambers, and I don't know. If you look here out
Well,
of
it's
the
not Richmond
Charlotte,
County. I can promise you that.
yeah, it's not Richmond. Unfortunately, Richmond's days are just going to get worse. Years are just going to get worse. Unfortunately,
Yeah, I agree with you.
It's not the coach's fault. It's not
No.
coaching fault. It's a population fault.
Yeah. The teams that are like they're going to be nationally ranked in North Carolina, and I'm going to get a lot of hate emails about this, but it's going to be in a large population base. It's going to be somewhere in Raleigh or Charlotte or Greensboro or wherever.
It's going to be Raleigh or Charlotte, exactly, and probably the
Yeah.
next team might be Huff. I don't think this year. So, and how do you pronounce that name? Antuan Ray.
Yeah, when there's
I'm
a
gonna call
name
him
with
Ant. I'm sorry.
when there's a name with a lot of vowels in it, and
Yeah,
with my southern accent, you can forget about it.
exactly.
But
So I'm just gonna call him Ant.
we'll call him Mr. Ray. Mr. Ray.
Mr. Ray. Honestly, don't see a team being nationally ranked in North Carolina this year. Probably not.
I agree with that.
Yeah, this is not a good year for football in North Carolina. I think North Carolina football is down this year. Your best shot for this season is a Chambers or an East Forsyth, and I just don't see that level. Chambers may end up surprising because they are loaded with talent. And of course, to be a nationally ranked team, you're going to end up. You got to have great coaching, but you're also going to need to be loaded with Division I players.
Well, the question I would ask people, we have asked like about the national rankings. If a team like with like Chambers was in Texas, where would they be ranked in Texas among all those teams? They might not even be in the top 20. You just never know.
Or Georgia, Georgia, another big football state, and when Mallard Creek went down to play them, I didn't think that was going to go well, and it didn't.
Mallard
Creek
looked like the one-legged man in a butt kicking contest.
Well, you're playing the number one team in Georgia, and it's not going to go well. I'm just looking back real quickly over our comments to see if we have anything else. I don't see anything else. We didn't get too many people upset. There was a little bit of upsetness early on, Jim, when you posted this, and so hopefully, we'll see how things go next week. I think.
Yeah, we'll get more people, man. I mean, and the other thing about it with the polls and rankings, you could play this team and win 28-0, and the week before you were ranked number 5, and you might slip to number 6, and everybody's like, "Well, why'd you do that?" Well, there's another team that shows up that played a more
Right.
impressive opponent and did something really special that we did not know about, and they leapfrog you. You see that
Exactly.
in college football. You see that anything.
Well, I think in high
It's
school, it's got more of a potential of doing that, Jim, because it's high school and
yeah,
we
it's
have
not
less
saturated
parameters.
like college.
Right. We have less
Well, people
parameters
that
that we
don't,
can go on.
people that get ticked off, they can do polls themselves as well. I mean, join the party.
Exactly. The thing is people take it too personal because they want their team. It's easier for us when we don't have a team. Um, and it's hard for someone who has a team to hear that their team, who may be undefeated, I sit here and I look at the school that my boys played for, Olympic. They're 3-0 right now. They've got some decent wins, but they're not a top 4 team. They're not a top 10 team in 4A. I can't believe that they are. They might be. They might be at the end of the year. They might go undefeated. But as you look at body of work right now, you have to kind of do things relative to what you know about programs from past as well.
Right.
And in high school, things can change from one year to the next. And we don't get as much data. In college, we got all these statistics. We've got rushing yards, passing yards. We just have all this data that we can apply to our rankings of a team. And with high schools, a lot of times you can't even see the teams, or you only can
There's a
see a
lot.
few highlights.
There's a lot more variables in high school because we don't have. It's just not saturated like it is so in college football. Now, what I was going to ask you about the top 10 in 4A, I had Audrey Kell
Yeah.
listed, I believe, in number 10.
Yeah.
I was surprised that not many people gave me any backlash about that, to be honest with you. I thought it was kind of an edgy pick.
I don't know that it's that edgy. It's a bit edgy, but Max Preps through objective power rankings has Audrey Kell higher than I believe they are, but they have them at number 4 in the state.
Oh.
Now again, I don't know how deep Max Prep's algorithm goes, of
Right.
looking at who played who kind of deal. If it goes deep enough to really be able to get that kind of information, especially 3 weeks into the season, if it's only a 1 or 2 level head-to-head deep, then it's not deep enough to be able to determine across the entire state.
Not enough data.
Yeah, exactly. Not enough data, but maybe after about 8 weeks it could. But still, they look good from what I've seen. They've got a very good defense. Providence has got what looks to be, through data, the best running back in the state. He set the NCHSAA rushing record this past weekend. And they held that kid to under 60 yards, I think it was. When a kid gets over 400 yards, you got to look at who they're playing against as well. But
Yeah.
I don't think it's a bit edgy pick, Jim, but it's not I think they're a solid top 15, and I'm okay with them being in the top 10. I would put them right there near top 10. They play Weddington this coming Friday night. So I saw Weddington 2 weeks ago play Providence Day. So Weddington's a good team. So that'll tell you a little bit about Audrey Kell. If Audrey Kell wins that ball game, then your pick's probably not too edgy.
How about Butler?
I thought Butler was. I mean, this time last week, I was high on Butler.
Yeah, same here. That air went out my cells after that game, but it's right before Labor Day, and you always have to figure that in. Also, it's right before going on 3-day weekend.
It's one game. It's things can there. We don't know all the factors because in high school, so many factors can impact a kid's play, and you may only need one or two kids' play to get impacted to cause something like that to happen.
Right.
I don't know. I think Butler's got to regroup. Let's just put it that way. There's some regroup, and the season's not over for them. It's just one loss, one game rather. That's really the best way to look at it.
Well, can you put back the top 10 rankings for 4A?
I sure can.
I just want to kind of look at it over. Well, I noticed I had a couple of triad, or maybe 3 triad teams, just a handful of Charlotte teams, a handful of Raleigh teams. It doesn't look like any specific region is really dominating this year.
Yes. So let me get back to the share. And come on. Let's go to window. Let's go here. Jared. I blew it up so that we can see it.
Let's see, you got East Forsyth. I think Grimsley, I see right now it says East Forsyth are they the best team in North Carolina. I can see 7 and 10, but I can't see 8 and 9. I think one of those teams might be Grimsley.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought, let me see if I can scroll it up or go back out. I don't know if it'll let you see it going back out.
Can you go up? Can you scroll it up?
Unfortunately, no. So it's
Okay, I used to be able to see
Grimsley, Leesville Road, and then Ardrey-Kell.
Okay, gotcha. So I mean, you got a team in the mountains, AC Reynolds. You got a team New Bern out in the east part. You got Leesville Road. Is there any other? Have any other teams in Raleigh?
No.
Maybe is it Cleveland in there?
Yeah, I thought you could see Cleveland.
Yeah, okay. I can't now. Now it's looking at 5 to 10, but 1 through 5, the number 10. But I mean, it's there's not really an area that's really dominant. It used to be, just even 2 or 3 years ago, you had Wake Forest and Raleigh, and then you had about 4 or 5 teams in Charlotte, and maybe a team in Greenville or Greensboro, maybe a team maybe like Richmond County or something like that. But it used to be more concentrated in Charlotte. Now you look at it, you got Julius, Chambers, Huff, and then you have Ardrey-Kell. I mean, it kind of makes me wonder if Charlotte 4A football might be slipping a little bit.
That's a good question. Of course, we look at the past 4 or 5 years, one of the schools we would have had in there, 2 of the schools that we would have had in there, one would be Mallard Creek.
Right.
They had a coaching change. That was a big impact, as we all knew it would be if he ever left, and it has been. Myers Park has had a new head coach every season for the last 4 seasons. They were on the cusp of, they two playoffs ago, they were in the regional finals and lost to a state champion, Julius Chambers, then Vance High School. That particular conference is not as stout with Still a very tough conference and still probably the toughest conference in Charlotte, but it's tougher by half, which means the other conferences are weaker as well. Now, Independence is 3-0 right now, first time in a while. I'm not saying Independence is back up, is going to be up at the level of a Huff Chambers, but Independence may very well be the team in the Southwestern 4A. But then once you get past Independence and Butler, you're kind of weak. And then you look in the other conference in Charlotte, Ardrey Kell's it, and South Mex down this year. They graduated a lot from last year. It's going to take them a while to rebound. Olympic's an unknown right now, but even if Olympic, you're now talking about teams that are not anywhere on par with the Huffs and the Chambers. So
I just wonder how much Olympic is going to suffer, with the Palisades school being built, because that's taken a lot of their students.
well, it's not hurt them at the varsity level. In Olympic, never took advantage. And by taking advantage, I mean when you are one of the top 5 in maybe the largest to third largest school in the state, and you're in Charlotte, which is what it's going to take pretty much. But you're that large a school, and you can't develop a team with the talent level to contend against the Chambers. There's things going on it's going to take more than students and a loss of students to get Olympic into that kind of contention. So it's going to hurt them, and probably the team that's going to come out ahead in 4 years from now will be Palisades. But yeah, and Raleigh, did not see so many Raleigh teams in here as well as kind of, it's not just Charlotte, but the Raleigh teams are kind of down as well. So,
Right. I mean, to be honest with you, you had like Bleasville Road, you got Millbrook, you got Wake Forest, and you got Rollsville. All 4 of those teams are pretty close to each other, to be honest with you. I just thought Bleasville Road at this point was the best. And, they beat Wallace Rose Hill. They were doing pretty well against them. For I think after the third quarter, they were up by 3 scores or so, 3 or 4 scores, and Wallace Rose Hill got a couple scores in the fourth quarter. But
so I see a comment here that from Mr. Ray that new county AD came in and started cleaning house, so kids are at the school they supposed to be at now in Charlotte. No, not really. Kids are still where they have been.
You think he's made any headway though?
Is she making headway? No, not really.
Yeah, and you don't think so?
Yeah, no, she's not. She's not going far enough. No, I don't think the situation is really. You had a sore thumb sticking out at Myers Park. A highly obvious situation that had built itself up at Myers Park. That was hard to hide. New AD didn't have anything to do with the exposure there. Parents who have kids at the school who are not getting their fair shakes any longer because of these people coming in from Texas, and California kid was fully legit. That kid came because California didn't play football in the fall because of COVID, and it wasn't looking like they were going to play in the summer. I mean, in the spring, and I don't remember if they did. But when that family found out that North Carolina was going to play football in the spring, they moved to Charlotte so their kid could play. It was a legitimate move. Things that occurred afterwards were not. But the kids that were on the roster at Chambers last year, on the roster at Huff last year, and all the other schools, they're still on the roster if they didn't graduate. There's with a few exceptions. There's one player at Huff, Hollywood, number 3, and he's not playing this year. But no, I don't know what it's going to take to correct this. It's just going to get worse. Quite honestly, it's not. This situation's not going to get better. It is what it is, and people are going to find with so many apartments around. It's just in not having dedicated ADs at the schools that can police this stuff and check and verify things. It's not going to get fixed. It's too big a problem. Looking at the other, so Mecklenburg County and Wake, we can definitely see downward trends, but it looks like the other areas are still probably holding fairly true to where they've been and where they will be. I'm just hoping to see, because I do have a bias here, guys, I'm hoping to see Kings Mountain make its way to a late playoff. I'd love to see them playing on the final Saturday.
Same here.
I think it's time for them to.
They need that ring. They're the only team in Cleveland County without a ring right now, and I think the opportunity is golden.
Yeah. The only one of the powers, right?
Yep.
Thomas Jefferson's over in Cleveland County, right?
It's Rutherford County.
Is it Rutherford?
Yeah.
Oh, they're in Rutherford. Okay. I thought they were in Cleveland.
I think it's was it Mooresboro? Is that the town?
Mooresboro, but they're like toward the outskirts of Mooresboro. They're like to the west of town. They're basically almost down the road from Chase.
Their head coach is Barry Shuford, by the way, if you didn't know that.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Barry Shuford took over?
Yep.
Jerry Cash.
But you're correct. You're correct. That's they're the only one hanging without a ring, and I'd like to see them get that ring for multiple reasons. That would just be another good reason for them to get the ring too, is so that they can be on par with their rivals and increase the rivalry. What's pretty cool is that Crest was owning Kings Mountain for a while there, Jeff. And Kings Mountain has kind of turned the tables now the last 5 years. That's a pretty and I don't know, does that make you think, are things changing in the Crest area?
Well, we'll understand this year Crest is a little bit down there, a little bit on the young side, and they bring in a new head coach. He's a very good coach, but I think the system probably changes a little bit, and there's the kids have to buy into it, and it's going to take a little bit of time, but I don't think Crest is going to trend too downward. I don't think they're I was high on them at the beginning of the year. Now I'm sort of a little bit lower on them because what their defense has given up thus far in the season. That's typically un-Crest like. Even against good teams, Crest defense does not allow teams to put that many points on them. I think they're going to get better as the season goes on, but I don't see them this year beating Kings Mountain or South Point.
Yeah, well, that comment about Crest was kind of along the lines of what's happening over the last 5 years and maybe over the last decade. Is Crest the same kind of power that they were 20 years ago. Let's say 15 years ago, 15,
Well,
20
even
years ago.
even like what year they beat Havelock in the state championships? Like 2014 or
10?
15 or
Yeah,
so.
I'm thinking about 10 years, 8 to 10 years ago. Yeah.
I think it was 2015. They went to state and beat Havelock pretty
Okay.
good, but they really haven't been. I mean, they've been a good team, but they haven't really been a contending state national or state championship contending team since then.
Right, exactly.
Not since Mark Barnes left.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah,
they had a guy that replaced Mark Barnes for 1 year that did pretty well, and then he ended up, I think, going to James Keenan. And but Barnes was a great coach.
So, what about over in Lincoln County, Jeff? What about West Lincoln? Tell me. We got a huge contributor for West Lincoln, and I'm sure she'd like to hear a little more about what others think. Jim, what do you think? And Jeff?
Well, West Lincoln, I'd say ever since Tom Sain's last year with the program, West Lincoln has been rolling. I think Tom Sain helped, in his last year with the Rebels, he helped set Coach Ponder up very well with the program. And I feel like them being an 8-win team, or was it a 9-win team that year? They lost in the first round of the playoffs, but still doesn't take away from the great season they had. And I covered one of their games that year, their game against East Lincoln, where they held the Mustangs scoreless. And Tom Sain, very class act coach, and Coach Ponder, I don't think he has missed a beat since he took over. Even during the COVID year, when we played football in the spring, when you were limited on the playoff spots your conference can lock in, they stole second place from East Lincoln toward the end of the year. And last year, they've I think they made it to the second round of the playoffs. So they are a much improved program. And this year, we'll see how they do against teams like Maiden, because they play them in the next few weeks.
2 weeks, isn't it? Yeah. Not this Friday, but the next Friday.
I think it's the 30th. I think it's September 30th is that game.
Oh, is it? I thought it was.
Yeah, I think next week there's a bye week for a lot of those teams.
I thought they had their bye this week, but
Maiden and East Burke play next week.
Yeah.
And West Lincoln resumes against Bandy's next week. So it's going to be a quiet week for Lincolnton and a quiet week for a lot of Gaston County teams. Everybody's got their bye. That's kind of why I'm just humming along, not saying much except for Kings Mountain. But I got to give West Lincoln credit. But East Lincoln, they're the team of Lincoln County this year.
So I don't know if this is Garrett that asked this question, but it's what reasons you think are causing teens from metro area schools like Charlotte to start having declining years?
And some of it's cyclical. But also,
yeah.
But also, I think there's a fundamental change over the last, I want to say the last 5 or 6 years. I think CTE's become a little bit more known. I think also you got our population, our demographics within the state has changed. Soccer is growing, and I think it's going to probably in a few years probably exceed football if it already hasn't. There's some areas like where I live, soccer is king. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's bigger than football by far. But you go. I bet you right now in the triangle area that I live in, you got more people participating in soccer than you do in football.
Yes, the problem with Charlotte, especially, is or Mecklenburg County, because it's one school system, and it's such a large school system that you have. It's not yearly, but you have consistent district changes because of reshuffling for populations. And then you have new schools opening that can impact. You have coaches doing well and leaving. So that's what has impacted Mallard Creek, and not sure yet if it's impacted Chambers because they lost to an out-of-state school. So don't write off Chambers just yet. I think it's partly cyclical, but I also think it's partly just due to the changes that occur within some of the programs and the type of kids that you're working with at a lot of the schools. You don't, or let me step back from that. A lot of the schools will not necessarily promote from within or don't have the structure to promote from within and keep systems the same. And thus they bring in new coaches, and that causes a change. And it only takes a little bit of a change. You know, it is like a soup, and you can make a great soup and you can make just a slight change to it. And it'd be horrible, you know, put a little too much salt in it or not put the right spice in it. And it becomes not, maybe it doesn't become horrible, but it doesn't become where it's not as good. And it's the same situation with here. I think that's there's no question that's what impacted Mallard Creek. And Independence. Come on, you know, you lose. Independence went through a cycle of having some good coaches to replace Knott's, but not sticking around because the AD didn't stay behind them. So Evans left. Evans did great, and then you had the young Harden come in for 1 year, and then he flips and goes out, and so all of a sudden you're in a situation of 4 coaches in 4 years. Not
I think it was 2016. You had.
Sorry, go ahead.
I think it was 2016. You had Scott Young that was hired, and then before he actually coached his first game, he was fired.
Yep.
And then he got replaced, and that guy who replaced him leaves, and I think you had Castellano there for about 3 years.
So the one who replaced Young was Harden replaced Evans, right?
I believe so. Evans was a great coach.
Yeah.
To me, Evans is one of the most underrated coaches in Mecklenburg County, to be honest with you.
No, I agree. That's they'd have kept him, they would still be a contending program and never would have not been a contending program. So that hurt them. Butler has been hurt by they lost a number of coaches. I don't think people realize the number of head coaches that were on the Butler program when Newsom was there. And then after Newsom left, and then a few years later, Hambacher and Shaughnessy leave. I mean, you had position coaches at Butler that were former successful head coaches. Hambacher was went undefeated. The only coach that I know that has beat Harden and Knott's in the same season. And he's coaching defensive line at Butler. So Butler was hurt by change as well, by losing a large number of very influential coaches. It's hard to replace those kinds of bodies.
What about some of the populace moving out of the big cities and into the suburbs and then other people leaving public schools to go to some of these private schools. Is that a factor as well?
I don't think so. Jill may think differently, but the private schools only get a few kids. I mean, there's so much talent in Charlotte that you're not going to lose that many kids. Providence Day's picking up kids, and they will continue to pick up kids. They are going to be an IMG type program now. I can see that. Great coach. People are going to come to play for them, and Providence Day supports that. People moving out of Charlotte to go to the suburbs, well, if they're doing that in Mecklenburg County, they're still within Mecklenburg County. Where are they going to go to? They go up to Cabarrus County. Well, that's a growing area too. So you don't see an extra change happening in Cabarrus County. You see a change happening in Cabarrus County because of population increase, and you're seeing power shift from Concord and A.L. Brown to your Hickory Ridges. But
well, what you find also in every county, you'll find some, like in where I live in Orange County, there's 2 high schools in the Orange County school system. There's Orange County, and then there's Cedar Ridge. Chapel Hill, Carborough, and East Chapel Hill are their own school system. But the powers to be, and I'm unbiased. I mean, I could care less about Cedar Ridge and Orange. The powers to be will give all kinds of money to the athletic program in Orange, and for the most part will ignore Cedar Ridge. And it's always been that way. I mean, Orange High School has been there since 1962, I believe. Mm-hmm. Cedar Ridge has been around since 2003 or so. All the money gets spent over there. And you get bigger programs like in Alamance County. I think Western Alamance probably gets the most money of all those schools. If you go into like in Randolph County, Asheboro has their own city schools. Who would the favorite be? It's probably the new schools, probably Wheatmore and Providence Grove. You talk to people over in Eastern Randolph, they feel like the school system, they had schools, they could care less about that school. Yep. And I mean, that's one reason why Eastern Randolph used to be a 3A school at one time. Now it's down to 1A. You'll see a lot of favorites, and believe it or not, that is a factor in football. If you don't have the equipment, you don't have the facilities, you're going to lose. You're going to lose some talents. They're going to go other places.
Exactly. Now, Gary asked about Shelby. Now, he agrees about our comments on Kings Mountain, and he's asked what we think about Shelby. And I'm just going to summarize in just a few words what we said earlier. Don't count Shelby out. They've had a tough schedule, and they're still one of the better 2A teams in the state. That was what we all concluded.
Yeah, Shelby still wins the state championship.
I mean, you can. I think you can consider them right now to still be one of the contenders for a state championship. If they go 0-5, I might change my mind. But
yeah,
actually, I won't change my mind until they are not able to qualify for the playoffs. Because they will just
started 0-4.
Do what, Jeff?
Has Shelby ever started 0-4? I know they've started 0-3, but I don't think they've ever started 0-4.
I don't know.
I don't know.
I would come to you for that question, Jeff, or go look it up. You'd be
not since I was in school, and that was like over 20 years ago.
You know what? Let me pull it up, see if I can find something here. I got everything from Shelby from 1960 on. Let me pull it up.
I can't. There's probably been a season somewhere way back there.
Let's see here. I'm pulling it up now. Where are you, Cleveland County?
And while you're doing that, Garrett asked about would any team be dominant like Tarboro was during the Gurley years. Isn't Tarboro still kind of dominant? They have some competition, but they haven't slowed down since Gurley. But I mean, that's almost like saying like Albemarle was during the McClendon years.
Oh yeah.
Right.
Exactly. Let's see here.
I don't think Tarboro is going to face. I don't know. They don't seem like they're going to face the same kind of demise that Thomas Earl and Thomasville, excuse me, and Albemarle have faced.
Albemarle has not been a consistent contender since Gaster left. Rest in peace, man.
Well, they won 2 state championships after Gaster. They won in was it 2009 and 2010. That was, I can't remember, it was Danny, was it Danny Aiken or whatever his name was? But
I feel Albemarle is probably facing similar issues of.
Well, here one for you. 1996, Shelby started out 0-3, and then they made it to the second round and lost to Brevard 36-0. But I'll look through 1960 on. On 2001, they started out 0-3 and lost in the third round to go 10-4.
No
0-4s.
No 0-4. So
most
there you go,
season,
Jeff.
Most of the season, they didn't even lose 4 games.
Right.
2012, they were 0-3. They lost to A.L. Brown 44-0, Ashbrook 24-10, lost to Crest 35-7. And
I was at the Kannapolis A.L. Brown game with Shelby where they lost 44-0, and that's not typical of Shelby. But they turned it around. And I think made it to the third round of the playoffs that year. So
yeah, lost to Madison County. So
yeah, that's just a program you cannot count out. Yeah, Albemarle and Thomasville was big. Yeah, they were big.
I think they're big again, to be honest with you. Albemarle, they beat Owen this last week. I think the score was 57-15.
The Warhorses.
Or excuse me, 57-12. That's what it was. That's pretty good, if you ask me. Thomasville's good. I mean, Thomasville, they're to me a top 10 1A team again.
Well, I would like to see that. I would like to see them make a deep run because, again, a team that between Albemarle and Thomasville was the team I liked. Except for when I found out about T.A. McClendon, going to be an NC State guy.
Yeah, that was. The good thing, that was a great rivalry, Bulldog versus Bulldog.
Yeah, very good rivalry.
Now, there's another team out in the East that kind of remind me a lot of Albemarle and Thomasville, probably more Thomasville than Albemarle, which was Riverside, or the old Williamston High School. That was a powerhouse at one time, back in the late 90s. I mean, they were really good. And I was looking at Riverside Martin's record right now. They are 3-0. They beat North Pitt, they beat South Creek, and they beat Northside Pinetown. Next week they're going to play Southside, so if they can beat Southside, I think that would be a pretty darn good. Probably be credible to get in the top 10 in the 1As. Oh, here's one: West Rowan versus North Rowan. I like North Rowan. I don't know if they're going to beat West Rowan, but they did a shellacking against North Stanley this last week. They were up 34-0 at halftime. North Stanley is down this year, though. I think there's some issues. They're not really being. I just know I know there's some underlying issues in North Stanley that goes out that transcends football. I
Right.
don't know if North Stanley is going to be very competitive this year in varsity football, but North Rowan's got a really good 1A team. Do I think they're going to beat West Rowan? I don't know about that. Can they? Yes. I think West Rowan's got to be favored though.
Yep.
Yep. I would agree with that.
Alan and I talked about that game a little bit last night. I think I went with West in that game.
You think? Okay. I think I would. I don't think I would think about it, but maybe I do need to think about it, huh? Is that what you're saying?
So, see, I don't know that area very well. Haven't quite studied in depth on it, or I didn't take extensive notes on it. Quoting somebody from a few years ago. So that's where I stand.
How about two-way football? Obviously, you got Monroe, you got Wallace Rose Hill, you got East Surrey. Are there any sleeper teams that you guys think could make a really big run? I mean, Maiden to me is I don't know if Maiden is really what I classify as a sleeper team, but
Depends on where you take it to. Do you take it all the way to being a state champion?
Is Maiden a contender for the state championship?
Yeah, that's a good question.
I just don't see them getting past Burns or Shelby.
That's two hard picks right there, and then you got Reedsville and
you got Monroe also. Monroe, I think, might be the best team in the 2A.
Monroe's a good squad. Exactly. I don't know. I think it's gonna be hard to come out of the West.
And to be honest with you, I don't know if Chase might win it all this year too. I mean, to me, Chase is more of a contender than Maiden is at this point.
Okay.
And Chase, I'd love to see a Chase Burns game or see a Chase Shelby game this year. And one thing that make that Chase Shelby game intriguing is that Chase has never beaten Shelby in all their school history. So, man, you talk about blood in the water right there. Chase, they would definitely be fired up for that game with Shelby.
When is that game?
Oh, that'd be a playoff game. They're not in the same conference this year.
So they're not going to play this year, is what you're saying, in regular season.
No. Now, if you go out to the east, though, to me, Wallace Rose Hill and Hereford County are the teams to beat. Hereford County has a tremendous pass offense, great defense.
I like Hereford.
Wallace Rose Hill's to me is probably the gold bearer at this point. I know. I think must be Garrett that mentioned Northeastern. I think the third best team in the 2A East would probably be Roanoke Rapids at this point. I think they're a little bit more athletic. I think Northeastern might have I don't want to say a rebuilding year, but a reloading year. I don't know if they're going to be as strong as they were the last few years. But you know what it was? I think it was last year. Northeastern started out slow in the gates, and the next thing you know, they took off like wildfire. So you just never know. Some schools take longer to get out of the blocks than others.
Right.
Not how you start, it's how you finish.
Yep, it's not how you drive, it's how you arrive.
That's right. However, too rough a start, and you may not be able to finish.
Yep.
You got to be able to make the playoffs to finish.
Let's put it this way: your esteem goes higher after an ugly loss than a very hard fought or ugly win than a hard fought loss. I don't care what it is. Winning builds confidence, and losing can erode confidence. So, there's a lot of mental aspects into football.
It certainly can, and that's why teams have to be careful about how they schedule powerful opponents. Playing powerful opponents can be a big mental boost, but it can also be detrimental if you're not a powerful team.
Right.
It can just be more devastating.
Like Forest View did. I mean, they started off with Burns, lost 42-0, and then East Lincoln, they lost 53-0. Both cream of the crop teams. I mean, Forest View beat Freedom last week, 13-7. So maybe that'll be a confidence booster. But I mean, kind of, it's almost like you pick your poison right there. Think you're going to be better these tough teams, or is your confidence going to be shattered? Got to ask
one of the
kid.
problems. Yeah, one of the problems with those tough games is not just the mental beatdown, which can be huge, but a lot of those tough games usually equal physical issues as well, and you can lose players physically by playing much better opponents. So it's a balancing act of playing better opponents so you can get better. My belief is, in most cases, if you're going to schedule a better opponent, try to schedule better opponents that on the right day, with the sun rising in the correct way, you got a chance of winning. There's no benefit in scheduling teams that you know you're going to get beat 48-0, that you have no chance to win. I don't see the advantages in that. I only see negative mental and potential physical advantages. I don't see advantage to scheduling weak opponents. I think coaches should try to schedule at a minimum on par opponents, and in some cases, a little bit better opponent.
How long has Coach Medlin been at Forest View?
His first year as a head coach was back in 2007, and he came on as an offensive coordinator in 2005 when Forest View decided to switch from what they called the blackbone, or their version of the triple option offense, to the spread. And he was offensive coordinator, Coach Lee's last year, and then offensive coordinator, Coach Fuel's only year. And then after Fuel left after 1 year, Medlin became the head coach in 2007. So I think this is 16th year with the program.
Wow. I think the first time I met Coach Medlin was back in, I think we were juniors at Carolina back in 1991. Both of us lived on the 8th floor of Hinton James, and he was 2 suites down from me. And he was not a guy that talked a lot, but once you got to know him, he would open up and talk to you a little bit. Great personality. And then the next year, both of us moved off campus, and sure enough, we lived in the same apartment complex as he was 2 apartment buildings down from me. And he was kind of a peacemaker, to be honest with you. He had one acquaintance that was a bit of a hothead, and he was always trying to get him out of trouble. So I always knew he had a lot of leadership, really great leadership.
So Gary's asking about the Huff Cox Mill. I think Cox Mill, if Cox Mill can give them a good game.
I think they can.
I think there's the potential.
Still think Huff wins, though.
It's hard to pick against Huff in that game. hard to pick against Huff in most games, but definitely in that game. Now, one thing I'm going to say, because anytime Coxmill comes up, I like to mention this. But when I met with Coach Newsom about 4 years ago, 5 years ago, now 4 years ago, let's say, he was telling me that the area in Cabarrus County that he felt had the highest ceiling was Cox Mill. He likened it to the same kind of area that Butler and Independence drew from for kids. So
I'm not as high on Cox Mill, I guess. I think Huff, as long as they don't sleepwalk, I think they win by 3 scores.
Tell you what, if the Charlotte Hornets were a football team, that's what Cox Mill has a jersey set the Hornets would look like as a football team.
it's hard to see a Cox Mill win.
Yeah.
There's going to have to be a lot of things happen for Cox Mill to win the ball game. Now, there's a reason they strap them on and play.
Yeah.
And Nord, I'm sure will be there getting his pictures. I think Nord lives at Cox Mill now. His daughter, goes to school there. She's a volleyball player.
And Nord's he's neighbors to a girl I grew up with. We both grew up in kindergarten through high school together, and I was talking to her and saw something Nord had posted, and she's like, "How you know Nord?" I said, "Oh, we know through each other from Carolina Varsity." And she's like, "He's my neighbor."
Oh, that's wild.
Yeah.
Well,
small world.
Yeah.
Very small world. So, Gary, I think it's going to be a tough game for them to win. I think 42 to 42-21, 42-28. I don't know.
I take 34-13.
34-13.
Mm-hmm.
I like the 42-28 pick a little bit better.
Maybe, but also slide back on 42-21, 42-28, I think Cox Mill's playing good football.
Gary says 34-14.
Yeah, I see that.
I think I just think Huffville will win this game unless something unforeseen happens. But
unless something unforeseen happens, I just think that there might be one more score each team than you do. That's all. That's the only way we differ.
What's the weather going to be like in Charlotte this weekend? Because that's always a factor about the amount of points you're going to score.
I haven't looked.
I think the forecast is partly cloudy.
Okay. Oh, someone else says I'll go off the grid and say 35-14 Huff. Okay. But it should be fun. Now, about the 1A, I think Mitchell and Tarboro are the Gold Bears.
Yeah.
I think Murphy, they're playing a really good team. I think it's called South Pitts. I can't remember if they're in Tennessee or Georgia. I think they won their state championship, whatever state it is. If Murphy can beat that team, I think they rank in the top 10. But right now, Murphy just doesn't seem like the Murphy of old. I mean, they don't have David Gentry anymore. So
83, a low of 66. So it might be upper 70s at kickoff. Somewhere around
my big
80.
thing is it going to rain or not?
Might be a good football night.
Yeah.
You'd like to see that 66. That'd be a near. Be a
Utopia.
very. That'd be a very ideal for fans. I don't know that rain's going to. I don't think environment's an impactor for Huff unless it caused an injury. I just don't. Rain. I don't
Rain
know
can
that
change the format of the game though. If it's raining hard or misting or something like that, it can throw the chemistry of the
So
game off so easily.
if it's raining real hard, it can then come down to near luck, unless there's still a huge difference in teams, and there's not a huge difference. There's a big difference in these two teams, but yeah, it says sorry, no rain.
That's cool.
I don't want it to rain. I don't want
I
it to
don't
rain
either.
anywhere.
But it
Uh,
used to be for the last 3 or 4 years. Like if we ever go into a drought, just start calling high school football games. The rain will just come out like crazy. You remember all those
right.
games that got moved to Wednesday or Thursday or got postponed because of like not just rain but tropical storm type of rain.
Rain can change things. I see Garrett saying there, but I don't think in high school and like a Huff team, they can they can fall back from their to a running game. They're running in passing games. Probably it's not really gonna impact them having to go from a passing to a run game because it's going to impact Cox Mill as well. And even if Cox Mill is a better run team, if it's a heavy rain, it makes it become in some points a luck because the ball's slippery. Field's slippery. To run, you still have to make cuts. No matter what, a lineman's got to get leverage to block, and a running back has got to be able to make a step to get away from a tackle or to step into a hole. So a lot of the factors that impact a passing game impact a running game.
What do you
I
guys think
remember.
about the game I'm covering?
What's
About
that,
what?
Sheriff?
What do you guys think of the game I'm covering this week? Number 3 team in my area versus number 2 team in Allen's area.
Well, I think personally, Burns and Watauga. Um,
I'm going with Burns.
yeah, I'm thinking Burns has probably got too much speed. I'm picking Burns
But
one
I'll,
to
I'll tell
two.
you right now though, Mitchell. They went up to Watauga, and I think the game was basically even. There was some bad. I think it was a couple of bad calls at the end of the game, but Watauga won by a touchdown. Watauga's 4A and Mitchell's 1A.
Right.
Uh, Burns is a very good. They're a top 10 two-way team in the state. Uh, Going against Watauga, they're a little bit more deep than Mitchell, a little bit more athletic. I I just got to go with Burns on that one.
Yeah, I do too. It would be something to play Watauga late in the season. I went up to in 2006 to Watauga to watch West Charlotte play Watauga in the playoffs. Cold, fantastic stadium. Have you ever been to Watauga, Jim
Never
or
have.
Jeff? fantastic environment.
Never.
It's a very, very, very good environment, except for when it's cold. But it's still
Well,
a good environment.
if it's cold, wet, and windy, that's not fun to cover for me. Just and call me a
Right.
fair weather fan. I don't care. I like warm. I'm a southerner. I like warm weather. I like sunny. Warm breeze is a lot better than a cold breeze.
Well, we did not have snow, but we had cold.
I'm from the north and I hate the cold.
And it was one of the colder games I've attended. Um, Thankfully, we didn't have snow. It's a good football game, but West Charlotte was clearly the better team.
Probably the coldest I ever been was after Thanksgiving. It was me and Daniel Burleson. We were watching the very top of Tarboro, where the coaching staffs are, the coordinators are, and we're
Yep.
watching Tarboro play Walls Rose Hill in the third round of the playoffs. It was like 33, 34 degrees, and that wind was whipping around 20, 25 mile per hour. It was multi-direction. It was coming in sometimes in your face, sometimes right in your ear, and you're just exposed. There's no trees or anything when you're 25 feet up, and you're exposed. And that was a miserable feeling. I mean, I was like, I want to go. I'm gonna go down the ground and warm up a little bit. And it's a lot warmer on the field than it is up in the air. And that was you just couldn't stay warm.
I think maybe the coldest I've been was up in High Point when that quarterback from North Gaston that went to Chapel Hill. You guys remember Blue?
AJ Blue.
Yep. He was playing, and it was in the 30s, and the wind was blowing so hard that the flag up on the flagpole stood straight. Just it hardly rippled. It was, the ripples were real, real, real small. There was no place in that stadium you could go to get out of that wind chill. And it cut through multiple layers. And unfortunately, I didn't layer enough. That might be the coldest.
I think the coldest game I might have been to was when Force U played at High Brighton back in 2013 when Force U went on that deep playoff run. Talking about chilling, man. Still some puddles near the visitor side, though.
It's funny what little things someone can say makes you think. And when you say puddles, you know what the first thing that popped into my mind was Concord. And they've got a artificial turf field now, I guess. So it's really wild, the things that pop into your head when you hear something. And that's because every time I've been to Concord, it's always rained, or just after rain, it seems like.
I'll say a question that came about the top 10 in the mountains, Piedmont, and coastal. I'll tell you the top two in the coastal, and I think they're meeting this next week. I think it's Newbern and Havelock are the best two teams in the coastal area of the state.
Newbern's looking good.
Yeah, I think so. I think Newbern's going to be favored in that game against Havelock. But I will tell you right now, never go against an Alan Luton team.
Who was that quarterback for Newbern? I'm sorry, just when things pop into my head.
Oh, was it Mike Thomas or some Thomas guy, or he was the guy that went to North Carolina? Later on became a defensive player.
It was 2000, and when state championship 2004.
Yeah.
What was his?
Oh, 2004. Okay, I was thinking about 2014 or 2016 or whatever.
No, I'm
15 or
thinking
whatever it is.
2003, 2004.
Oh, I don't remember that one.
2004, I think, is when it was when they played Indy in the. Joe Cox said, could have been 2003.
I know 2007, Niebuhr beat Indy.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I was there.
Well, guys, I'm going to have to call it a quits for this evening.
Yeah, I think I am too. Jeff, I'm glad you got it working.
Yep. Eventually, I happen to figure things out.
You guys should try to do something with Garrett sometime. How often do you and Alan get on?
Alan and I try and get on, once a week. We try and get on, either on a Monday or Tuesday, and try and, rehash, the games from our area, and then try and look forward to the games this coming week. I mean, this coming week, since we got so many teams on a bye, we're going to kind of do something special. Basically, combine rankings from his area and my area. Basically, this is just going to be for this 1 week. So, we got something special for the fans out there.
Well, it was good that Garrett threw all these questions in and topics. That was helpful. We didn't get quite as much interaction from the others. Still, we got some feedback. Okay. Well,
all right, guys.
Everybody have a good evening.
All right. Good seeing everybody.
All right. See you.
All right. Take care. Bye.